Hey, what's happening? This is your host Tinto, and before we get into this weekend's episode, I thought to give a shout out to everybody that got me coffees, starting with you currently deactivated. May I just say I really appreciate the support. I know this is not the first time that you've got me coffees, and I just want to say thank you. Keep the fire burning. Melody C, thank you very much for your coffees, and I really like the comment you added. I've learned so much through this podcast. It's educational, entertaining, thought-provoking, and reflective. And then Scribe, thank you very much for the coffees. That's quite a number you got me there. I know it's not easy coming across this kind of money, but thank you so much for your support. And the comment that you said is, I find it really inspiring that you've created something so powerful and impactful. Shout out to Girl in Skies, as this is how I got to find out about your podcast. So shout out to Girl in Skies as well for getting us connected with people out there. And then Ndishami, you got me some coffees again, a great number. Thank you so much. And they were really unexpected. And your comment there is, Tinto, there aren't enough words to express how grateful I am for discovering TFS, especially when I did. Well, Ndishami, same to you. I can't express how grateful I am for your generosity. If you'd like to do the same, please head over to www.buymeacoffee.com/feeling station and give as your spirit leads. Remember, there's nothing that is too small to support the podcast that you've grown to love. With that in mind, let's crack into this weekend's episode.
Is that a breakup? I think we have a situation right here.
On the Feeling Station.
Hello?
Hello.
Yo, what's happening?
Nothing. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well.
Wait a minute. You hesitated. What is happening?
You know, it's not really hesitation, it's surprise, because when I spoke to you the other day, you had one accent. Today you've got a different one. So I'm trying to pick out which one you're going to hit me with. I always admire you guys who are able to do the switch, man. One day I'll master the art of doing that. Welcome to the Feeling Station.
I mean, it takes a lot of practice. Thank you so much for having me, Tinto.
How you feeling?
A little excited, a little nervous. Both, really.
I'll tell you how I'm feeling. I'm feeling very excited because when I spoke to you at our initial engagement call, you said to me, Tinto, when we do the episode, you have to throw all judgment out the window. And I was like, yo, I love how that sounds. Yeah?
Well, I hope it should be in the trash can or something.
Nah. Then no judgment exists here, so bring it all. I'm all ready for it.
Yes, so let's do it.
So for those who are listening to this podcast for the first time, it touches on breakup stories that people would like to talk about with a view to give you lessons from my guest's experience. And one of the reasons why the podcast is doing well is that I do my best to keep my guests anonymous, which brings me to the fun bit. The part where I give you the name that you're going to use for the duration of this episode. Are you ready for this one?
I am. I hope it's a cool name, because if it's not, we're going to fight.
Well, I think it's cool. It comes from Namibia. And I must say, Namibia hasn't been easy in terms of getting a name. It took me a good 20 minutes to find one that I felt, okay, this is all right. And I had to check with one of my homies in Namibia whether I got the pronunciation right. And yes, you know, they saved my ass. I've got it right. So your name is Aina, which is which is A-I-N-A. Aina. A-I-N-A.
What does Aina mean?
Right. So Aina means, this is interesting. It means it means love and affection, you know, which are nice. But it also means vegetables. Which I found quite hilarious. So you can choose which side of that name that relates to you the most, the love, the affection, or the vegetables. In fact, I'm going to ask you, which one of those is more attributable to you?
Love and affection. I am one of those people who, when I'm in it, I'm absolutely in it, and it is ridiculous. Okay. I feel like it's a weakness more than it is a strength.
Yeah, once you're in, you're in.
Yeah.
Dope. And what are you calling the person you're going to talk about today?
It's two people, and we're going to call them Emo and the fixer.
Two people, emo and the fixer.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Only because you said no judgment in this, and then you're naming two people. I'm already like, yo, judgment, stay out the door. Okay.
You better kick it out. Kick it out, sir.
So cool. Now over on to the next bit. The other reason why the podcast is doing well is that there are some real life lessons that people learn from the experience or experiences you're going to share today. So hit me with those lessons. What would you like people to learn?
All right. So 4 lessons.
4.
1.
Cool.
Your fear of loneliness will land you in what feels like love, but is not.
Ooh. So your fear of loneliness will lead you into what feels like love, but it's not?
Yeah.
Ooh, nice. I
Number
like that.
2.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2 is don't allow someone to change who you are. It always ends in you resenting them.
Ooh, nice. Another one. Another really good one. And your third?
3 is the person that shows you how you deserve to be loved isn't always your forever.
Eesh. I can tell you've really put some time and thought into these, eh? Because they sound...
I did.
Yeah, no, they sound really deep and really, really solid. Okay, I'm ready for the 4th one.
The 4th one is when you choose to love someone who is taken, you will have no one to blame for your hurt but yourself.
Right. So let me make sure I got these right. First one up. Your fear of loneliness will lead you to someone that feels like love, but it isn't. Second lesson, don't allow someone to change who you are. It always leads to resentment. Now, is this resentment of yourself or resentment of the person?
Of the person.
Okay, cool. I'll just add that bit. Third lesson, the person that shows you how you deserve to be loved isn't always your forever. And last but not least, when you choose to love someone that is taken, you have no one to blame for your hurt but yourself. I'm already thinking whether it's emo or the fixer who was taken, but we're going to get to that part. Nah, these are really, really solid stories. So let's jump straight into it. Now, who did you meet first, emo or the fixer?
Emo.
Emo, right. So tell me about you and Emo. Where did you guys meet? Where does your story begin?
My story with Emo begins on Facebook. Emo messaged me on Facebook and he was asking about something that I was doing at the time, creative industry stuff. And so that's where the conversation really started. And then it moved from Messenger to WhatsApp, right?
It doesn't automatically move. Okay, don't go so fast. What happened? Did he ask for your number or did you volunteer your number?
He asked for my number. He's like, hey, so like, chatting is easier on WhatsApp. So do you mind us moving? And I was like, okay, cool. Let me backtrack a little bit to say that I just moved to South Africa. And at the time, and I was staying with my sister. And my sister is a one-man island. And also, I've just landed in South Africa. I don't know anybody. I don't have friends here. And I just kind of just connected with somebody who's in South Africa. And well, let's see where this goes, right?
Okay.
So
yeah, you see, this background helps a lot because now it makes sense to explain, the movement from Facebook over onto WhatsApp. Even though I don't believe that the line that he used to say that it's easier to chat on WhatsApp, I don't get how, because a notification is a notification, right? Whether it comes via WhatsApp or it comes via Facebook Messenger, it's still a notification that you open and you respond to.
This is very true, but I guess it was also the fact that I'm not a Facebook person, so it also took me ages to respond on Facebook.
Oh, okay.
And I think I would assume, I don't know if at the time he had already targeted to say that I'm going to make a move on her, but like I was like, okay, cool, let's just move it to WhatsApp because I'm there more than I'm here anyway. So let's move the chat.
Hold up. So you were the one who said let's move over to WhatsApp.
No, he's the one who said that. Because I think he was impatient with my 20-hour later responses.
I'm suspicious of that. But yeah, okay, let's let's just say that's what happened. Okay, so you guys moved over onto WhatsApp. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And then
So remember, I'm new in South Africa. I don't know
yeah,
nobody. I'm literally spending my days in the house,
yeah,
right, by
yeah.
myself because my sister and her daughter, the daughter was going to school and she was going to work, so they leave like at 5 a.m. in the morning. My life was very routine at the time. You gotta wake
Mm-hmm.
up, you clean up, you eat, you bath, like the usual. Um, so I'm just like, oh man, something needs to happen, like and let me also mention that at the time, my friends had things going on. So they had their 9 to 5. So they're
Mm-hmm.
not available on the phone like I am. And I'm 24/7 on my phone because that's all the entertainment I have outside of television.
Yeah.
Emo was also working, but he would kind of sneak out of work to chat with me for like 30 minutes and then go back or whatever. And I was like,
Mm.
oh, that's cute.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
really cute.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it started to escalate from just chats to like calls at 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
Don't ask me why it was 3 in the morning, but it was 3 in the morning. Okay. So he
Wow.
would call me at 3 in the morning and we would talk until around maybe 5. So 2 hours on the phone. And then he would have to start getting ready for work. And then obviously we would chat through the day until 3 a.m. again.
Wow.
And let me just say that I picked up on the red flags, and I was just like, oh well, I mean, I can ignore that.
But what are these red flags you picked up so quickly and you chose to ignore? Yeah, it sounds like there are many, so you're gonna have to name as many as you can remember.
Listen, I think the other thing that I didn't mention about Emo is that he was younger than me. He was like
How much
two,
younger?
3 years younger than me. 3 years younger than me.
Now, here's a question.
So
Why is that worth mentioning?
mhm, it's worth mentioning because I had dated someone younger than me before and it didn't work out. And I had said, I'm never doing it again. And then here I was
Mm-hmm.
doing it again, you
Okay.
know. Um, and I knew that there's a lot of things that wouldn't work. So, for example, the one thing that I picked up at that time is how he didn't he didn't know how to listen, right? And when you're having a conversation with someone and you're telling them how something made you feel,
Yeah.
and instead of them understanding your feelings, they immediately become very defensive and try to they want to be in the right all the time. So I picked it up and I was like, okay, this is not it. But then I was like, well, if I let this go, then I'm gonna be lonely. So I'm
Right.
just going to I'm gonna teach him how to understand when someone is explaining their feelings. I'm gonna take him through a course. I don't know where I thought I was gonna get the energy to do all of
Wow.
that.
Okay.
So and a little bit of um irresponsibility, if I should say. Um he was someone who would say, these are my plans. And the plans would be so big and there's no smaller plans. So how are you going to get to the big plans if you don't have like um the smaller plans to get to the bigger stuff? Do you know what I mean? So I'd be like, yeah, but no, I get that you're dreaming to get there, but like, how about right here? Like, what are you doing now for you to get there? And he would feel like I'm attacking his dreams, which is not what I was doing. And then I was like, you know what? It's not my business anyway. It's his dream. Let him do what he got to do. He's going to learn. Yeah,
So
big
check.
mistake.
So check this out. Two comments.
Mhm.
The first one, which is relating to him being younger and not understanding what you were saying, and he couldn't process emotions the way that you needed them to be processed. That could happen with both younger
Mhm.
guys and older guys. It's
Yeah.
it's just people's abilities to process what is coming out of somebody's mouth, and some people can only do that because they've been exposed to that. If somebody says to me how they're feeling, I easily stop in my tracks and pay attention because I know what it feels like not to be listened to when you're expressing an emotion that's very raw and very real to you. And that could happen either
Mm-hmm.
way, for both the younger and the older folk, right? So that's comment number one. And then
Yeah.
comment number two that we're coming to about the bigger plans, etc., etc., etc. One of the things that I was taught was dream big, all right? Once you
Yeah.
dream big, you have that goal at the end. And when I was doing Coffee with the Filling Station with Kandoro in December, one of the things that I mentioned and said I have really learned to master is the art of beginning with the end in mind. And I'll speak about this podcast for starters. The reason why I started
Right.
this podcast was for me to have an income generating stream, right? So, point number one, the end goal is have 200,000 downloads and streams and then start monetizing the podcast. That's a big goal. And I get the small bits that you're talking about because I do need to take certain steps to make that happen. And so that meant I needed to make sure that I got something that is catchy, so that affected the branding, and then music that is catchy, so that it imprints on people's minds whenever an episode ends, and then something that is repeatable over a long period of time. So then the theme of breakups came to mind. So these small steps all add towards this bigger plan. So with this guy, the big plan is a plus. But the small bits where he now started feeling like he was being judged, well, maybe you were still trying to formulate that, and that's not a bad thing, is it?
Well, the thing is, there was no formulation at any point. It never happened. It was just it was just the big dream. I don't have a problem with someone having a big dream, right? We all have them. But like, if there's no action, then like, what do we do?
Okay. So he would feel
we can't keep
victimized
just talking about it.
You'd feel victimized, and then he would become very defensive.
Yes.
Okay, so let's just talk about your role in that. How would you support him when he became defensive? Because sometimes people are defensive because they're ignorant and they genuinely don't have a plan. I remember once being asked, okay, so what's your plan? And I didn't have a plan, and I just became very defensive because I felt I'm getting exposed. So maybe he needed just that little bit support from you to say, hey, why don't you think about doing this to support that dream? Is that a conversation you guys had?
Definitely. We had the conversation. A lot of people who know Aina know that I'm always ready to give. Do you know what I mean? So I gave him a lot of ideas. I gave him a lot of smaller plans, and do this, use social media, do that, do this, say this. But like, it was like I was just talking to a brick wall. And at some point I was like, you know what? It's fine. Just continue, sir. Just continue.
So this is a huge flag, and this is one of the flags that you felt, okay, I can change this and I can make him softer. I can make him see like the bigger picture, right?
I really thought I could.
How did that work out for you?
It didn't. It did not work out. So, we stayed very far apart. And then one point is like, nah, I think I'm ready to see you. I'm like, okay, cool. So I told my sister, I'm like, yeah, that guy that always calls me at 3 a.m, kind of wants to see me. So my sister was also seeing someone at the time, and she's like, well, he can come through this weekend. Because she was going to her men's place for the weekend with her daughter. So she's like, so yeah, you can have this place to yourselves or whatever. I'm good with it, right?
And this was going to be
cool. So I let him know.
This was going to be the first meeting?
It was going to be the first meeting, yes.
Ooh, okay.
So I'm all ready, and this person's like, yeah, no, I've left home. This was like in the morning, 12, 1, 2, 3. No sign of this human being. I'm like, yo, where you at? Turns out he had gotten lost and taken some sort of a longer route. And so by the time he arrived, it was around 6, 7 p.m. And I'm like scared to go meet him at the bus stop because I'm like, yo, dude, like, you know how it goes in Johannesburg. This is not a safe time to be moving. But I leave anyway. We meet up. What's up? We go back home. I have to say that it was okay. The conversation was okay. We blended easily. And I think another mistake that I made is I mistook conversation around the creative industry to be good conversation. Does that make sense?
No.
As in, there's nothing else that we could really talk about outside of the creative industry.
I
So if
see.
I start, so if I start a conversation on politics, it's like a jam. If I start a conversation, if I start a conversation
So, s-
on
s-
the economy, it's a jam.
so do you mean to tell me all these conversations you were having up until 3 in the morning were about the industry?
Mostly, yes.
Wow. So this meeting that you guys were having where he says let's meet, on what level
Mhm.
were you guys meeting, as industry partners or people who potentially have chemistry?
We were at that point. We're gonna date. This was just to cement it, just to say we can't really jump onto it without seeing each other, but we're literally on it.
So you guys are on the
And
dating tip,
yes, we're
but your
on the dating
conversations
tip.
are all about industry stuff. So like where did the
Exactly.
where did like the chemistry come in for you to even think that dating would be a good idea?
I ask myself that every single day now. I'm like, what was I thinking? What
Whoa.
did I think was going to happen? Because if I tell you that entire weekend, all we
Mhm.
ever did was be on channel or MTV Music or whatever,
Ah,
because
you are
that was the common ground.
joking. You must be
I
joking.
kid you not.
S-
Like, that's mostly what we did.
Wow. Okay. I'm
Ah,
hoping by the end
it
of this
was, yeah.
weekend you said, nah, this is not for me, and you guys didn't bother keeping in touch about anything romantic. Maybe about industry business, yeah, but not about anything more than that.
I wish. I really wish.
Oh gosh. Yeah,
So
okay.
by the end of the weekend, it's like, yay, it's popping, and I'm feeling really good. I've got a boyfriend, you know.
How?
So
Yeah.
so we keep this boyfriend girlfriend thing going, and at some point he says, "I would like you to wait." I skipped something, so I went to visit him at his place,
Mm,
and worst week of my life, not because of him but because of where he stayed. So firstly, his landlord didn't house, she only housed men, but she only housed single men, right?
right.
So um so he lied, told the landlord that I was a sister and I was visiting for a week.
Okay.
So I go, but obviously, you know how people can tell from conversation
Yep.
and
And
like
body
little things of
language.
the fact that body language and the fact that he never had times where he would go sit outside because I've just bathed and I need to change. Do you know what I mean? Or because it was like a one
Wow.
room and the bathing area was outside. So it's like I've just walked in, I'm coming from bathing and like I'm changing and he's in there. And they're like, what kind of relationship is
Wow.
this one?
Which one is this
and that,
one?
and that, which one is this one? And so that set off a lot of fireworks.
Hmm.
And it didn't help that it was little things like she would do like really annoying things, like if the lights on during the day, she'd come knock and be like, you gotta turn off the light. Or she'll be like, oh, why haven't you swept the compound? Why haven't you done this? And I'm like, at no point was I told that I'm supposed to do any of this. I don't feel like it's
Yeah.
any of my business.
Yeah.
And so when he comes, like, I'm like, yo, you guys have duties because like now I'm being asked to sweep the compound and what, like what's happening and clean the bathroom. What is this?
Yeah.
And so he's like, no, we never do that. I don't know why she's doing that. And then one day she just woke up and she's like, I'm gonna need both of you out of my house.
No.
Get out. I kid you not. And this is like in the afternoon, and I was set to leave sometime in the following weekend, right? I was set to leave the following weekend. So he was waiting on his pay. It was gonna come in the week. So now I'm not working, he's broke, and this one is saying, get out.
Do you think maybe this landlord fancied him and she didn't like the fact that you were in the picture?
I never understood what it was about that landlord, because if anybody got a girlfriend or a wife, they had to leave. There was like no compromise whatsoever. I never understood it.
Was she
So now
how old was she roughly? Or rather,
she was old.
how old does she look?
She looked like she was somewhere in her 60s, somewhere
Okay.
there. They're
Married?
grown kids.
And did she have
No,
Okay. Okay.
no, she was not. That's the mystery till today.
Mm.
So anyway, we hustled around. We got money. I went back. He took me back to my sister's. And then it was he needed to look for a place immediately. So it was when he took me back to my sister's. It's like, would you like to move in with me? And I'm like, I gotta think about that, you know. And then I went and told my sister. My sister at the time,
How long had you guys been an item by that point?
it had been a couple of months, maybe 2.
2 months, and he's already saying, "Do you wanna move in with me?"
Exactly.
And you guys don't have
And
Nyas apart from Channel O and MTV.
Dude, listen.
I'm not gonna lie, this is sounding grim, fam. This is sounding grim already. Okay.
I'm so disappointed in myself.
And I'm kind of starting to see why the other guy might have been called the fixer, because already something here needs fixing. but let's get going. Keep going.
You know. So he goes back. He starts looking for a place because she's literally a week to leave. So okay, cool. So I talked to my son. He's like, well, no, it's not a problem. I don't see the problem. And I might also be moving in with my person. So I mean, it's not a big deal. But if anything goes wrong or whatever, you please know that you can come back to me. You know, you might just whatever. Okay, cool. So I called him like, hey, so I'm told to move in with you. Cool. So on the day that he's moving in, I had to travel back to where he stayed and help him to move out. That woman was so mad to see me. She was so mad at me when you know that thing where when you've moved everything out and then you clean up the place to leave it clean?
Yeah.
I've cleaned it up. I've got dirt. I've put it in a plastic. And I want to put it in the bin, and she's like, carry your dirt with you. I kid you not.
Wow.
She was sitting there like, if you put your dirt in there, we are fighting. I am going to kill you. Take your dirt with you. We had to take the dirt with us.
Yo, that's crazy.
Dude.
Nah, you know, it almost feels like there was really more to this, than met the eye.
Yeah, definitely. So we move into this new place and I'm like, new beginnings. What new beginnings, sir? This is where everything kind of just took a lift, right? Because now we're in, again, this one space. So it was, again, one room. And when you stay in one room with somebody, when you're mad, there's nowhere to go. So it's... you gotta look at the person. So it sucks. Listen. So it starts off really great. So the usual, he goes to work, I stay at home, and I'm playing wife, basically. And I'm not doing anything. So I'm not working yet. And I'm trying to figure things out. And that's when little things started popping out. Little things like he would say to me, oh no, that dress is not nice. Find someone to give it away to, right? And I think I ended up getting rid of half of my wardrobe because he wasn't comfortable with it, or he just felt it wasn't nice. And he would ask me to either give it away or sell it or whatever, and then say that I'll replace it with things that are nicer.
You see, that was going to be my next question. That, okay, you know, it's one thing to say to someone you don't like what they're wearing, but are you offering an alternative?
He offered the alternative verbally, but never actually did it.
Did you follow up on it to say, hey, you know, you promised me some stuff?
Yes.
And still nothing?
I did. I'd be like, yo, but like, you know, and there would always be something going on. But every single month he would top up his wardrobe in the name of, but I go to work. The only time that he would actually put an effort to get me new clothes is when there was something happening at church. So there's a big event at church, you can't embarrass me, you need to look good. So then he's gonna buy me a new dress. Yeah, it was
Wow.
always dresses,
Was he a
So and
very
sometimes we
but was he a very churchy guy?
very extremely churchy.
And at
Um,
that time, would you have described yourself as a churchy woman?
I think I thought I was.
Mm-hmm.
And because we're raised in that whole thing where you should be churchy and marry a churchy guy and do the churchy things, I thought, okay, this is finally where I'm meant to be, and people will be very happy and very proud of me for being in the space. So that was
Mm.
that. When it comes to that happened, and then I started working with my brother, helping people send money between Zim and SA. And then what then he would do is pay me. So I'd say to him, okay, just hold on to the money until it's like this amount, and then send it to me. And you'd think that that's when my life would change and I'd be able to do things for myself.
Yeah.
But he would always ask for money and say he needed it for something and would give it back and never give it back.
Mm.
So now I've started making something for myself, but like you keep taking it from me. And this was like, I wasn't talking about this, and so they were just piling up. And then this is where the fixer walks in. The fixer and I were also in the same creative industry. I met through a friend who was like, "Hey, I'm in this group, and they do the things that you do. You like, and would you like to join it? It's a WhatsApp." I'm like, "Awesome." So he got my number, adds me, and then one day I think I made a call out for something, and then he came to my inbox, and that was it.
Mm.
um, if I say that conversation with the fixer was so easy, and it could go from politics to economics to the creative industry to food to the kitchen to housing, Tinto, I'm talking all around, and it's great conversation. Do you understand what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yes. So it sounds like he was very fluid.
Very, very fluid, very, very present as well.
Mm-hmm.
He was the type of person where you go and you say, I feel like this, and he would understand your feeling and help you break it down to the point where you're like, well, this is, and you figure out the root of why you're feeling the way that you're feeling. Whereas here, I'm staying with Emo, who when I go and say, okay, what did you make me feel like this? Like this one time, we were having a conversation about something, and I said to him, but you're not listening to understand, you're listening to respond. And his response was, so now you're calling me dumb. And I was like, what? Ranjani, like where? How?
Wow. Wow. Okay.
It was extremely frustrating. And so I found myself at a point where I didn't try and have conversations with the emo, like at all. The only times we would speak, it would be about his career goals and where he's trying to go in the creative industry.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it. I got my fix from the fixer. And
this is an emotional fix because he was handling that gap that that the original guy didn't have, right?
exactly.
Okay.
And so now the fixer was very open about his situation. He asked me if I was in a relationship, and I said yes. And I said, "Are you?" And he said yes. And I was like, okay. So in that moment, I'm thinking, okay, we're good, we're friends, right? But now the thing is, he's walked in with and filled up this really big gap that I was feeling. That now I think my lines are getting blurry here. And it was at the point where when the fixer's girlfriend would go to his place, he let me know that, hey, my girlfriend's here, I cannot speak to you. So like if it's a weekend, I'm not speaking to him until the girlfriend leaves. If it's a week, that's that. And I would be so moody. Let me tell you, I would be snapping every second because I don't have my fix.
But here's what I'm finding strange. If he knew that you guys were not boyfriend and girlfriend and you were just talking about industry stuff because that's what got you connected in the first place. So that's the core of the conversation. And then everything else that is outside of that is, ancillary. Yeah, he understands. His emotional intelligence is high. He understands what you're feeling. He can relate and blah 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 blah. He really shouldn't have had a problem, even if you decided to call it the weekend. Because remember, the core is that you guys are in this industry stuff, and it doesn't feel like there's chemistry on that level unless he wasn't being honest about what he really felt about you.
Um,
Because that's the only reason why I would think you'd say you can't really call me, I'm going to be with my girlfriend. Like, what are you scared the conversation will turn into? What are you afraid your body language is saying to your missus?
exactly. So it was like months into this conversation where he finally kind of started also kind of letting me know that he was also into me. And I wasn't mad at it. I should have been. Should have been the point where I actually just realized I need to close the door, but I didn't.
But you couldn't because you had a gap that was being filled by him emotionally.
Exactly. And I was like, I can't be unhappy.
So what was
through and
happening
through.
on the physical front? Was Emo catering to those needs, or he was too religious to feel that he needs to be intimate?
Tinto, Emo once upon a time fell asleep whilst we were being intimate, right on top of me.
You are lying.
I kid you not.
What do you mean you fell asleep?
Snoring asleep, Tinto.
Lord of mercy. Can you imagine that?
Hectic.
Had he had one too many drinks?
No, nothing at all.
Yo, that's mad. So Emo is not catering to your emotional needs, obviously, and sexually he's lazy. The fixer is catering to your emotional needs, but is he hinting that there's an opportunity for you guys to get physical as well?
Not in that moment, not that time. The thing about the fixer is he's very smart about the way he moves with his business. So it went from there, and then at some point I started another business, and I needed help, and it's like, okay, cool, I can help you with this particular thing, let's meet up. And that was the first time of me meeting the fixer. And so we handled the business. It's like, yeah, okay, let's go, let's do food. The other thing that he understood about me is my love for food. Let me tell you, he understood it. So it's like, I'm gonna take you to this place that I like, they do this, that, and it was perfect. And we had lunch, and they got me cookies, and I ate my cookies and his cookies, and he wasn't mad. So at some point when we were ordering food, just before, he says to me, do you like onion? And I'm like, no, I absolutely dislike onion. He's like, okay, great. So I'm going to have to kiss you right now. I'm like, huh? And he leans in and he kisses me and he says, yeah, so after this, I can't kiss you because I'm going to have onion in my, in my food.
So you didn't stop the kiss, did you?
No, I did not. I didn't. I really didn't. And it felt nice because he really treated me really nice. So gentlemanly. Like, it was great. And I think when I went back home, the glow was just so there. But Emo didn't really address it. But I think I was really glowing. I was so happy.
Did he clock? Because we were going to know that Emo isn't really emotionally there. Did he clock that you're glowing?
It didn't clock right there and then. Okay. So the other thing that you need to understand about Emo and I is there was this thing where wherever I went, he had to be there, and wherever he went, I had to be there. So I was very isolated. I never had the opportunity to just be, whether I was going to the shops, to the shop, it could have been like 2 steps away. It's like, he's right behind me. And this was one of the first times that I actually left home by myself without him. And it felt so light. Everything felt light around me.
Yeah.
So from there, then I absolutely inseparable, to the point where he would say, what are you craving today? And I'd say, and it's like, okay, I'm sending you money. And then I would also have to kind of make up a story as to where I got the money from.
Wow.
Because can't really say the fixer just sent me money. And then what happened is, I got this opportunity for a photo shoot via Instagram, right? And I went out for the shoot. It was, Tinto, when I tell you that it was one of the best days of my life. I was so happy. I was around. I had never met any of these people. It was my first time. But we had the photo shoot, we talked, we laughed, and then the person who was organizing it was like, I'm taking you guys out for food afterwards. She got us fried meat, we had alcohol, we had a great time. So bear in mind, Emo is at home. When I went back home, Emo was sitting downstairs right by the screen gate of the building, mad. And the moment I stepped in, it's like everything that had happened that day just evaporated. It was all gone. There was nothing for him to be angry about. He was just upset that he had to spend the day by himself and I was out having fun. He didn't even ask me how my day went. He wasn't interested. He was just upset. And I'm like, how are you upset that I went out and I did something that I enjoyed with other people and you went there? Why are you upset? How are you just going to dim my day like that? And that was it. By the time I went to bed, I was so angry and so sad. And do you know who I told? I told the fix. I was like, this guy did this to me.
Yeah.
And he was like, I'm so sorry, but and then I think the following day he made an effort to make me feel better. I'm sure he sent me money for food or something like that. And then one day Emo was on my phone, and then he bumped into pictures of the fixer and I together from the time that we met. And he was so unhappy.
Did the pictures look cozy?
They did. They looked very cozy. And my intuition is really great sometimes when I let it be. So I was reading a book, but like in that moment I said, this person has seen something and something's about to happen. I knew right then and I said, I'm not asking him, I'm gonna let him go ahead and do the things. So he turns around and looks at me and he says to me, are you attracted to somebody else right now? And I put my book down and I said, yes. And that's when he finally clocked and started going back into that day. And it's like, you know what, now that you mentioned it, you were so happy that day when you came back. And I get now why you never put your phone down and you're always smiling. Because there's times when you say to me, what are you smiling about? And I would lie and say it's something else on Twitter or whatever. But really it's something that Fixer said to me that has just made me, feel some jitters or whatever.
Yeah.
But now that we're having the conversation, that's when I finally let it out. I'm like, you don't treat me like you care about me. You neglect me a lot emotionally in so many other ways, and I don't know. I genuinely have no idea why I'm still here.
Yeah.
And that was the breaking point. And it was a great time for me to actually just say, I'm out. I'm gonna move out, and it's time for me to go. And just to mention that even before that, we'd gone through a period he had fallen really, really sick, and I had to take care of him. None of his family popped up to come and help, and it was also emotionally painful to go through it.
Yeah. Yeah.
On top of the fact that already I felt like I don't want to be here, I had to be caring to this person who was close to death. And the moment he had recovered and all of this happened, I was like, this is it for me. I'm going to leave now. And that's when I finally left. And then he went to stay with his friend and I went to stay on my own. And then, but like things kind of got shaky for me and I had to leave Johannesburg and go back to my sister had moved to Balijo and I moved to my sister's. And the fixer was still there and we were still talking. And the thing is, it was getting really worse. Like the bond was getting stronger by the second, right? To the point where I was comfortable to say, hey, I'm really having a tough time and I need ABC. And you'll be like, I got you. And he would come through. And then my time period when I said my sister had to come to an end and I came back to the city that he's in.
Yeah.
And the first week that I was here, he said, I'm coming to see you. When I tell you that he popped up with every little thing that I like. in terms of food, that is. Like
Yeah.
he went shopping for me, and we just had a great time, and we had lunch, and then the visits became regular. So he now knew when to visit me. So he'd visit me a week before my monthlies because he would bring all the food that I crave in the coming week.
Mm-hmm.
He had a budget for my cravings. He knew when they. I didn't even know that, Tinto, but he knew when they would come. He knew when
Wow. This
I
guy
would
was
pop. He
proper in
knew when I
tune, you know.
wanted ice cream. Proper. And there wasn't a visit that would happen that he wouldn't come here with a surprise gift. There was always a surprise gift. And it's one of those, it's something I've mentioned during a conversation, just in passing. I even have forgotten that I mentioned it. And I was like, well, I saw this and I thought, since you mentioned it, you would want it. Do you realize how amazing that is? And then it started to switch from between him coming here and then I got an invite to go to his place. And I was like, whoa, this is huge, you know? And so we started having the visits back and forth. He would come to mine, I would go to his. But for me to go to his, it was always calculated.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah, because obviously people in that area know the main girl, right? So it has to be very calculated. And so I would get there and he wouldn't hug me or show any intimacy whilst we're outside. So he would just lead the way right up to the thing, open the door, and then the greetings would only start when the door is closed and locked. If anybody comes to knock, I have to move to the bedroom.
So how did you feel about being a side chick?
It was painful. And I think I tried to mask the pain with the good memories, right? But I think the day that I finally said I can't do this is the day when I was at his place and he said, let's go to the mall. We went to the mall. But because, again, we're in his area, there are people close by who might pick up that it's him and is moving with another woman. So he wouldn't hold my hand. And he was literally 10 steps ahead of me.
Wow.
In the mall. If we get into a shop, like he would be all the way on the other side of the shop and I'll be on the other side of the shop. And then like if he sees something that he thinks I would like, he would come walk past me and say it whilst he's walking past me. And so he'd be like, go check out that in this aisle. I think you'd like it. And then would really sit down to really talk about it when I get home and like, oh yeah, I really like that. Because like in public we couldn't do it. And that's when I was like, this is painful. You know, because it's not like I don't love him and it's like he doesn't love me, but like this is ridiculous. I don't like it.
This is nuts.
And yeah, and that's when I was like, I need to end this. But then it never felt like there was the right time to go in and say, I can't anymore. You know? Because also I guess there was always a gesture. You know, it was little things like I would win a client and he would be like, I'm proud of you and send my favorite food. I'm proud of you and get me something that's going to aid me to make it work with this client. Do you know what I mean? And so it's like, oh, do I not say this now when he's just done something so great for me? And so when I finally said, nah, you can't do this, he had visited me and we had a great time. And then I took him out for lunch. We had ice cream. We had great conversation. Do you know, like, it's also one of the one relationship where we could put our phones away and forget that they existed because the conversation is that good. Very little people I can do that with on earth.
Wow.
But I woke up the following day, I called him and said, I need to speak to you. And because in my head, this was never going to end well for me. Because either one day he was going to wake up and he was getting married, or one day we were going to wake up and the main girl knew and it was going to be a shit show on social media. And I don't like drama.
Right.
And I've done a great job at avoiding drama in my life, especially that kind. So I was like, either way, this doesn't look like it's ending very well for me. This guy's getting, you know, 2 women and it's great for him. But I really do want someone who's going to be, he was very present. So that's why I said, the person who's going to show you how you deserve to be loved isn't always your forever, because he showed me.
Yeah.
Now I know that this is what love is like, this is what I want to feel with whoever I'm going to be forever with. And I was like, no, I have to close this off. So when I told him, he was shocked.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess for me, it was a little easier because I had been processing these emotions for a while, and he had just gotten hit by them like right there and then, like,
Right.
yo, this is what I'm feeling and I can't do
So for
it.
him, it really felt like a huge ton of bricks.
Yes.
You
it
know, which
did.
is
And
strange because this guy's got a girlfriend, you know, so he's getting his emotional and his physical needs taken care of by the main chick who he's not prepared to leave. So, excuse me, Mr. Fixer, but what is it that you're really getting emotional about here?
I think the thing about him is, actually, what I think happened is that when he got into this, he wasn't expecting for it to
To
be
catch
as great as
feelings.
it ended up
Yeah.
being.
Yeah.
Yes. But then he also wound up, he caught feelings and now he didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And I don't think he also expected me to wake up one day and be strong enough to leave.
Right. Wow.
Exactly. So when I told him, he said to me, am I going to get a reason for this? And I gave him my reasons, and he says, okay, you're being reasonable. That's fine.
But isn't that a funny
Okay.
odd thing? I mean, isn't that a funny odd thing that he's asking you for a reason why you want to stop being a side chick? You know, it's the audacity for me. You know,
it's the
bro,
audacity.
you know, you're not really in a position to be asking that kind of question. And I must say that you were a nice girl to him, you know, to actually owe him that reason. Because you could have turned around at him and said, well, I need you to explain to me why you can't leave your girl. For me.
That's also a very complicated one, which also kind of aided my exit, because there were children involved, but not his, if I should say.
So her kids.
Like there's already that bond.
Okay.
Yes, but there's the bond between him and the kids because they've been together for a while. So I also felt like it's difficult. I see where it's difficult because now you're not just breaking one person, you're breaking 4, 5, 6 people, however many kids there were. You know, so
this guy was playing a dangerous game, you know.
I'm very, very dangerous. And even today when I sit down, I'm like, you were being brave, girl. You were just being brave because that could have gone left any second. I remember this one time when I was finally leaving his place and he noticed someone standing like at the balcony in one of the apartments and he had to get into the Uber with me. And it looks like
I bet you he pulled his pants at that point. It's like, oh, this person is gonna say something. And then like when we got to like the traffic light, that was kind of hit, and then he got out and he went back up, and that was another thing for me. Like this hide and seek thing it's hard and it's painful, and I was like, I know this is love that I've enjoyed. It's a love that has been great, but I also deserve a love that's just mine, that's true to me. Yeah.
So it has the end. Yeah.
That's crazy. So I'm guessing that was the end of the Fixer then.
That was the end of the Fixer. It was very, very, very difficult because taking yourself away from the routine. Yeah. Like there were so many things that I realized, oh no, I can't. Like if I see something, when I say our conversations were very wide, so when I see something on Twitter, I could easily like DM it to him and we'll like chat about it for hours. And then like on WhatsApp, there's another conversation running, you know, and we'll jump on a call and our calls were no less than 2 hours. Impossible. So all of that I've just removed myself from it and to get used to a new reality where there's none of this.
Interesting. Out of curiosity, is he still with that woman? Is the Fixer still with his missus?
I think he is. The Fixer still talks to my friend that linked us. And as far as I'm concerned, they're still together.
Do you miss him?
A lot. A lot. But I guess it'll fade.
Yeah. yeah. And I'm also guessing you feel that you need to distance yourself because it wasn't the right thing, both for you and for him.
Yeah, I I couldn't sit and see a happy ending, especially for me. I couldn't see it, and it made me very sad and it hurt. But
Yeah, yeah.
it is what it is. I knew what I was getting into when I got into it, and it's a harder thing. That's why I said, like, it's a harder thing to deal with, because who are you to blame? He didn't lie to me. Not once did he lie to me that he was going to be for me and marry me and never cheat on me. He didn't give me those promises.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, do you know what? These you really made the lessons make sense. Your first one was your fear of loneliness will lead you to something that feels like love, but it isn't, and that's exactly what happened with emo.
Yeah.
And also because there was such a small transition period between him and the fixer, lesson number one remains the same. The fear of loneliness will lead you to, to something that feels like love, but it isn't. And then number two, don't allow someone to change you, because it always leads to resentment of that person. And I can see how this led to resentment of emo, because he was trying to get you to change your dresses and trying to get you to look a certain way for church, etc., etc. And at some point you're like, nah, this is really not for me. And to add on to that, you guys didn't really have much in common either.
Yeah.
And then lesson number three, the person that shows you how you deserve to be loved isn't always your forever. So who has shown you how you deserve to be loved now?
In this story, it was the fixer. He really, and it's something that he actually said to me once. He said to me, I was waiting for you to find somebody who would show you how you deserve to be loved, and it never came. So I decided, instead of telling you, I'm going to show you.
This game must stop playing the savior, Pela. How many people is he going to save like this? Because there are a lot of people who've got this problem in the world. So is he going to be doing that with every other person who he meets? That's going to be really emotionally taxing on him. And
That's
financially.
something that someone pointed out.
And it's a hell of a lot of admin. He's going to turn from a lover, of his main chick to an administrator, because he has to administer how he's going to deal with Aina. Then he's going to see how he needs to do with Emma and Noktula and whoever. He's just putting himself in a really, really tight spot. Funny enough, I'm starting to think that the fixer actually needs to be fixed himself. Because this whole notion of being emotionally intelligent with things that deep could be a reflection of the sort of things that he was lacking. And now he feels he needs to be the savior to deliver those to everybody at the expense of his happy relationship with his missus and his stepkids.
Yeah, someone did say to me in the time when I was really down and crying about him, and they said to me, "You realize that he's a fixer, and fixers are quick to move to new projects once they feel like they're done." And I was like, "Oh,
yep.
It was hard to hear, because I was like, "Are you saying if he comes back, then he's gonna look for someone else to fix? Like what?" But it's the reality.
True. Once you get addicted to projects, you just don't know when to stop and how, which is why I say that the fixer needs fixing.
Yeah, this is true.
I guess it's a shame that you guys aren't in touch, because you'd have just dropped him that line to say, "Hey, bro, I know you helped me out and stuff, but go get yourself checked out," because I think he does need it. And then on to the last lesson, the fourth one that came out was that when you choose to love someone that is taken, you have no one to blame for your hurt but yourself. And this couldn't have been more real in your case. Well, thank you so much for sharing that story, Aina. Thank you very much. That I found very interesting, primarily because of the angle of the fixer and trying to fix things. It really just makes me wonder how many fixers there are out there. If you feel that you are a fixer, go get yourself checked out. Because, these projects at some point will get overwhelming and you're just going to be emotionally drained by yourself. You've been listening to another episode of The Feeling Station. I'm your host, Tinto, and I look forward to catching you in next weekend's episode. Peace.
Ow. Tell me what you're feeling.
Satis on Daro Raini and Chake Zain.
Tell me what you're feeling. Now that it's over.
Satis on Daro Raini and Chake Zain.
Let me talk about my feelings. Let me talk about my feelings, yeah.
Urudoi motoru noto kujidziro amai.
Kujidziro amai. Love is a
runoto kuchidzirwa ma